She was just cleaning the range. The sun was high, the Nevada desert wind swept fine sand across the concrete floor, and the sound of distant gunfire echoed as Navy SEALs ran drills behind her. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't a warrior. She was the maintenance worker, an ordinary civilian contracted to keep the firing range spotless. And yet, fate had written a story that would make the entire base stop and stare, a story that would turn a quiet young woman into a legend. The soldiers didn't notice her most of the time. They were busy training, moving in squads, practicing with weapons whose names she barely knew. She worked silently, sweeping brass casings, wiping down tables, polishing the glass in observation rooms. Some of the SEALs would nod politely, a few even greeted her with a smile, but mostly she was invisible. That was fine with her. She liked it that way. She wasn't here for glory. She was here to send her paycheck back home to her mother, who still lived in a small house by the railroad tracks, struggling to pay the bills. But on that day, everything changed. The alarms split the air. Sirens howled across the base, echoing like the scream of some mechanical beast. Men in uniform sprinted past her, rifles in hand, barking commands into radios. She froze, broom still in her hands, heart pounding in her chest. "This is not a drill." A voice boomed through the loudspeakers. "Enemy attack in progress. All personnel take cover. Enemy attack, here, in the heart of a U.S. training base." It felt impossible, but the explosions that ripped through the ground moments later proved otherwise. Dust and smoke clouded the horizon. Mortars. Then gunfire. Real, live gunfire. Not practice rounds. Not training. Death itself had arrived. She ducked behind the range wall, coughing, eyes stinging from the smoke. Soldiers poured past her, returning fire toward the east perimeter. She could hear it, the unmistakable crack of sniper rifles, the sharp bursts of automatic weapons. Someone had breached the perimeter. Someone had come to kill. And she was stuck in the middle of it. Her hands shook. She pressed herself against the concrete, heart racing, tears blurring her vision. She wasn't trained for this. She wasn't supposed to be here. Just a cleaner, a girl with a broom and a mop bucket. Then, through the haze, she saw him. A Navy SEAL sniper, his face cut and bleeding, staggered toward her. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his uniform dark with dirt and blood. In his hands he carried a long sniper rifle, the barrel smoking. He fell against the wall beside her, sliding down, clutching his side where crimson spread fast. They're on the ridge," he gasped. "Snipers picking us off. Can't hold much longer." His rifle clattered against the concrete. He looked at her with eyes that burned, eyes that pleaded. And then, to her shock, he shoved the weapon toward her. "Take it," he said. "Take it and stop them." Her mouth fell open. I can't. I don't know how." "You do," he rasped. "I've seen you. Every night when you think no one's watching. You line up the brass casings on the tables, you pretend. Your focus, it's steady. Steadier than most of the rookies here." She froze, breath caught in her throat. He had noticed. All those quiet evenings when she stayed after her shift, playing games with herself, pretending to be a sniper, balancing shells, aiming through imaginary sights. He had seen her. "I can't," she whispered again. "You can," he said, his voice breaking. He shoved the rifle into her hands. "We don't have a choice." And then the decision wasn't hers anymore. Because at that very moment, a bullet slammed into the wall inches from her head, sending shards of concrete flying. She gasped, instinctively, dropping low. The SEAL groaned beside her, his strength fading. And the rifle was in her hands. She swallowed hard, her fingers trembling as they curled around the cold steel. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't ready. But she also knew, if she did nothing, if she froze here, they would all die. The enemy snipers would cut down every man running across the open range. Her hands steadied. Slowly, almost against her will, she crawled to the edge of the wall. The SEAL's voice echoed in her ears. "Focus. Breathe. One shot. That's all it takes." She lifted the rifle. The scope's glass was cracked, but clear enough. She pressed her cheek to the stock, one eye shut, the other peering through the lens. And there, on the ridge, just as he said, she saw them. Figures moving in the dust. Shadows with rifles. Snipers lying prone, scopes glinting in the sun. Her finger hovered on the trigger. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Steady, she whispered to herself. Steady, she exhaled, and fired. The rifle kicked against her shoulder, hard, almost knocking her down. But through the scope, she saw it. The figure on the ridge jerked, then went still. A direct hit, her first shot, her first kill. She gasped, chest heaving. She wanted to drop the rifle, wanted to cry, wanted to run. But then another muzzle flashed on the ridge, and instinct took over. She shifted, aimed again, fired. Another target down. Below her, the SEALs noticed. They looked up, saw her on the wall, saw the enemies on the ridge falling one by one. A roar went up. Soldiers who had been pinned down rose, firing back with renewed fury. Her shots gave them cover, gave them hope. One after another, she took them down. Every pull of the trigger felt like fire through her veins, every recoil shook her bones. But she kept going, tears streaming down her face. This wasn't a game anymore. This was war. This was survival. Minutes felt like hours. The ridge went quiet. Smoke curled where the enemy had been. Silence, except for the pounding of her heartbeat. She lowered the rifle, hands trembling, chest heaving. Behind her, the wounded SEAL leaned against the wall, eyes on her. A faint smile touched his bloodied lips. Told you, he whispered. You had it in you. Then the medics rushed in, dragging him away, soldiers flooding past her, cheering, clapping her on the back. The battle was not over. The perimeter still burned, and the fight raged on, but something had shifted. The girl who was invisible, the cleaner no one noticed, had turned the tide in those few desperate minutes. By nightfall, the enemy had retreated. The base still stood. Lives had been saved, and everyone knew why. When the commander asked for the report, the soldiers spoke her name. Their voices carried it like a banner. The woman with no uniform, no rank, no training, who picked up a sniper rifle and became the shield they needed. She sat alone afterward, hands still trembling, staring at the rifle now resting on the table. She had never wanted this. She had never asked for this. She only wanted to clean, to earn, to send money back home. But fate had decided differently. When her mother called that night, her voice warm over the phone line, the girl couldn't tell her everything. She just said, "I'm okay, Mom. Don't worry about me." And when the base quieted, when the night sky spread over the desert, she stepped outside, looking at the stars. Her heart still heavy, her soul still shaken, but inside her, something new burned. A strength she never knew she had. Sometimes, heroes are not born in uniforms. Sometimes, they rise from the most ordinary shadows, when the world least expects them. And that day, on a dusty Nevada range, the girl with the broom became a legend with a rifle. If you were moved by her story, let us know what you felt in the comments. Share your thoughts, your emotions, because every voice matters here. And if you believe that ordinary people can rise in extraordinary ways, then subscribe to this channel. For more stories that will touch your heart, lift your spirit, and remind you that inside each of us lies a hero waiting for the call.